welcome to this week's episode of Think Tank Thursday. On Thursdays, Trainertainment likes to take a little bit of time away from the doing and spend a little bit of time thinking about our business, how we can improve our business, new ideas to bring into our business, and any other topic that we find interesting that week. Before we jump in this week, I have to thank my 2022 Think Tank sponsors. Without them, I wouldn't be able to bring these episodes to you every week. So thanks to Embed, Simnox, Party Center Software, Redemption Plus, and Betson. We are so appreciative of the support that you have for Think Tank Thursdays. So on to this week's episode. This week, I'm super excited. I have a brand new guest, someone that I've been in a partnership with some projects with for about the last year. And I'm so excited to bring her to you guys. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Kylie, tell people a little bit about your background, where you come from, and all of that, and then we'll jump in.
Thanks very much, Candy. It's exciting to be here. I'm feeling a little bit nervous, so it's all new. So hi, I'm Kylie Savage, and a bit of my background. So I started out my life studying engineering and science when I was at university. I think I did that because I was 17 and pretty clueless about the world and how it works, but it got me a job in telecommunications, and I worked in telecommunications in that industry in large organizations for around 20 years. And I ended up in an innovation role just purely by accident. And I went on this whole journey about what is innovation? How do you create a culture that allows innovation to thrive? And that was a role that I had in this organization. And that led me onto human-centered design, which is a fairly new emerging area. And I worked for a design agency in Melbourne, Australia, one of the top agencies in the day, doing human-centered design projects, and took over their academy called Huddle Academy. And so I was running the education program and working with lots of large organizations who wanted to adopt human-centered design approaches, and helping them build capability across their organization to be able to do the work that we as an agency were doing on their behalf. They wanted to embed that in their organization. More recently, I met Bob Cooney, and somehow I ended up leaving all that behind, and I travel around the world with Bob, and that's given me the opportunity to obviously meet you and lots of people in the LBE space. And so I travel around the world with Bob and help him with his practice. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are. For those who may not know, and the most layman's terms possible, how would you define a human-centered design approach?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's not the easiest question to answer, but I'll give it a crack. Okay. So if we break the term in two and say there's the human-centered and there's the design, that's probably the easiest thing. So taking a human-centered approach to things is the way organizations typically work is they attack problems and creation of things from an organizational lens. So what's my organization? How's it structured? What resources do I have? What capabilities do I have? How can I create a service, or how can I deliver something with all the things that I have? And what a human-centered approach says is, who are the people that we're designing something for? What are their needs? What is it that they're looking for? And how might we apply the things in our organization to achieve that for that person? So it's taking the person view first, and then trying to tackle the problem. And design is an open-ended, creative way of addressing issues and problems. When you're taking a design approach, you sit in the problem space for a lot longer before you start coming up with solutions. We live in a world and our culture that often organizations, especially the large ones that I've worked with, people get rewarded for having answers and having them quickly. Don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. And so we've got these mantras that drive people to just jump to a solution and get on with implementation. And it's the doing that's really valued. And design sort of forces you to take a step back and say, let's really understand the problem that we're trying to solve here before we jump into solution mode. And it's a big challenge often in organizations to take this kind of approach, because the way that we measure success, the way that we assess things, even when you think about a project plan, is it on time and are we under budget? It's like we're in the wrong port, right? We've landed the plane on time and in budget, but in the wrong place. And design is the bit that says, where should we really be? Where should we really be? What is the solution we should really be creating, and focus on that before we get into that kind of, heavy activity to get somewhere.
In doing this, I assume you've gathered a toolbox of things that help people start to look at things differently. And I'm going to translate that into how I hear, like, a lot of times we start with the thing that we have, that solution already, the product that we have as a business, the service that we have a business, and then we go about convincing people why they need it, instead of flipping it and saying, these are the people, this is how they live their life. So where do we see our product fitting into the way that they already live their lives, the things that they already could do, and how could it make it easier for them? So it's kind of flipping the script that way.
Yeah, totally is.
Okay. So what's in your toolbox? How do you get people to stop looking at things from a thing points perspective into a humanity perspective?
Yeah, good question. I'm not really sure where to start with that question. I think that number one is talk to your customers. And one of the key things is asking questions. And the questions aren't things like, what do you think of my service? Or how could I make my products better?
Would you recommend us?
Those sorts of things. It's open-ended questions that allows them to explain their perspective. What you want to be doing is trying to stand in their shoes and see the world through their eyes. So you might say, tell me about a time when you've used, you might say, tell me about a time that you took your family to an entertainment centre. Then they're going to tell you the things that are really top of mind for them about going into those environments, rather than you prompting them with the things that are important to you. What they're going to tell you is what's important to them. And, so you're asking those open questions, and then as you're listening, which is an absolute key skill in human-centered design, as you're listening, you're trying to pick up little threads. They might say, we came in the front door and there were so many distractions. I couldn't even speak to the person at the front counter. The kids were going crazy. And what was distracting the children? So you're starting to dig into their experience and ask clarifying questions that start to give you a bigger picture of what's going on. And when you speak to a few customers, what you're looking for are patterns. And it might be that we're seeing a pattern that women coming into a family entertainment centre with more than one child are having a really stressful time. So how might we, so we found an issue, how might we then reduce the stress for mothers when they're entering into a family entertainment centre? And you might say, and then this is something that then you'd use to ideate. So come up with lots of crazy ideas and figure out what the possibilities might be. It might be, let's have a clown at the entrance who's doing some juggling or some magic to keep the kids distracted, but not getting into mischief while the parent talks. Or, maybe we should have a table full of jelly beans to make sure that they're really, no, we wouldn't do that. So you're trying to think of ideas, and then, before you go into the full implementation of those ideas, which could be costly and difficult, then you sort of prototype them with people. So you might just temporarily hire an external clown to come in for the day, stand in the foyer, and then you'd watch what happens. And then you might ask the parents about, did you notice a difference, or what was your experience with the clown there? Tell me how you felt about that. And then you use that to learn and iterate the design to actually put something in place.
That's a whole lot of information.
Yeah, I know. I forget what the question was that you asked.
It's okay. I have follow-up questions, and I want to unpack some of the things that you just said there. First, you're talking about having honest conversations with people that come in. And I know that that's something that many businesses probably fail at, because they think, oh, I'll send out a quick survey, it'll get me the information that I need. How do you feel about having like ambassadors or focus groups that like almost you partner with people as you go through? Or how have you suggested organizations get these type of more in-depth answers to some of these questions?
Like in a focus group, people are saying, do you like the red one? Do you like the blue one? Mm-hmm. The way you do design research is you have exercises. So you might have people, like we did some work with the tax office in Australia. And the first thing that we got people, our research subjects who we paid to come in to do, was draw, if the tax office was a person, what would they look like? And we gave them like an outline of a man, and people would then draw. And there's so much pictures really they're metaphors, and so you get a lot of really deep information from people when you get them to do these sorts of exercises, getting them to build with Lego as well. Mm-hmm. So they would draw an angry face, money flying out of their pockets, guns, it's like the Old West. So people would draw the images, and then you'd get them to explain what's going on, and you'd get an idea of how they perceive the organization through that. So when we're doing design research, again, we're not necessarily asking people what they think. We're getting them to connect with stuff that's quite unconscious, and you're trying to surface those unconscious expectations, feelings, thoughts, and bring those to the surface so that you can kind of pull that stuff out and do something meaningful with it. And most organizations would probably struggle. It's like
one of the things you said in that is that listening is a key skill in doing that. And listening seems like such a basic skill for us as humans, but active listening is way more. And so do you have any suggestions for people so that they can do that like internal check with themselves? Am I actively listening or passively listening? What tips would you give to make sure that you're really listening?
We used to have a model called the listening channels, and it described 6 different types of listening. And the value of this model is that just by identifying the different ways that we listen, if you reflect after a conversation, then you can identify what channel was I in while I was having this conversation. I think the most effective way to check on how you're listening is to reflect after a conversation. And reflection is, key in any sort of design, human-centered design work. Checking in with how you're listening during a conversation means you're distracted and you're not listening. And so that's why we say after the conversation to just do a reflection and say, how was I listening? How much was I thinking about what I was going to say next? How much was I listening so that I could ask questions? And when we're doing human-centered design, we want to be listening from a place of empathy. So what we need to understand is we all have assumptions, we all have biases, and when we're doing this sort of work, We need to, as best we can, cast that aside and really understand someone else's perspective. One of the design challenges we give students when they're learning how to do this work is redesigning someone's Christmas. And we specifically used to say Christmas because there were people there who didn't celebrate Christmas. And how do they feel when everyone's talking about Christmas? But anyway, the students would get together and they had a little exercise that they went through. And, you know, one of the questions was, well, how do you celebrate Christmas? And the person said, well, you know, I get up in the morning and then I start cooking and you know, I'm getting all the food ready and blah, blah, blah. And the person is writing down, right, spends all their time cooking. We need to make sure that they don't, you know, that we have to get rid of that for them so they can have a better Christmas. Instead of saying, how do you feel about that? Because the person actually loved cooking and it was their favourite part about Christmas. But what happened was the person who was listening through their perspective about what does cooking mean to them. It means, ooh, something horrible that I don't want to do.
It's a chore.
Exactly. And so when we're trying to listen with empathy, we're seeking to clarify and we're seeking to understand the perspective of that other person. And it takes a different level of self-awareness so that you realise when your own assumptions or your own biases are coming into play. So you're not projecting your own stuff onto the other person.
I think that's awesome. I teach customer service a whole lot. That's kind of where my niche has been for so long. And one of the big things that we used to teach about is when guests would complain, instead of really listening to what they were saying, a lot of times we automatically start coming up with the excuses and the reasons why whatever went wrong. And over my years of doing guest service, what I've learned and what I teach is that if you can honestly listen and ask some really considerate questions about what they said, you can bring someone's anger level and frustration level with you down from way up here to more even keel. So now we can have a conversation. Now we can work together to solve the frustrations that came. And you can leave my establishment, my business, as a more happy person from a guest because I really just took the time to not think of all the excuses why.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And often people just want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the powerful part about this type of listening as well, as the number of people who were like, wow, no one's ever asked me that before. Another example of that was some work that we did with survivors of family violence, and we were looking at a government level about how better to support those people. And there was a group in the government who said, well, the number one issue for victim survivors is safety. And actually speaking to the victim survivors, it was being believed. And so if you go about assuming you know what the key issue is for a group of people without actually checking in with them, then potentially you're solving the wrong problem. And that's really what's at the heart of human-centered design, is making sure that we're solving the right problem, creating the right service, and fixing, we don't want to fix things that don't matter to people. And we want to find it's not the easiest thing to fix, the cheapest thing to fix. It's what's the most meaningful thing to fix. And that's what we're trying to understand when we're doing this work.
I think that makes complete sense in a way that a lot of people can hear that. Earlier, you were talking about some of the tools that you used, and you flew past this experience that I've had the privilege of doing with you. And that's where you take a lot of things that you list out, whether they're issues or ideas or frustrations, and you reword them with a particular phrase at the beginning of those. Can you tell what that phrase is and why you find it powerful to reword those the ideas and stuff that come from a group of people being together in that way?
Yes, you're talking about the how might we question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it's really simple and super powerful. So what you do is you take the problem or the issue and you turn it into a how might we question. And the structure of that question is how might, and the how might really opens up your mind to possibility. The we is about creating a group or a shared problem. So it's not how might you fix the problem or how might I fix the problem, but how might we collectively come up with an answer. So how might we do something? And then you can also add a so that at the end, so that we get a particular answer, a particular outcome. So how might we reduce our customers' frustration at the sign-up desk so that they have a more relaxing experience in our centre? So then we've got a way of testing whether the issue that we're resolving is getting the outcome that our customer wants. And that links back to the questions as well, making sure that we're understanding what that real problem is.
What I love about framing it in that question is I felt, as mentioned, I went through an exercise similar with you about this, that it took blame off of a single person. It took responsibility kind of a single person. And I also felt it opened up the floor so that even if someone felt disconnected from the outcome, maybe I don't work the front desk, it's not, I'm in food and beverage in the back and I don't work the front desk, so I'm disconnected. But when you worded it in such a way, I felt like it opened the door for someone who is disconnected to have possible solutions that they may not have brought to the table otherwise.
Absolutely. And innovation is, it's proven, there's scientific research to back this up, that the more diversity that you have around the table, and that's not just diversity in terms of age, gender, race, or any of those things, but also in terms of roles. The more diversity you have around the table, then the more creative the solutions that come out of the group. And it's definitely a place where you want, ideally you'd have your customer as part of that. It's sort of brainstorming activity, but the more diverse of that group that you can bring together, then the more crazy the ideas, and the more crazy the ideas, the more creative the ultimate outcome will be.
And the more creative, the more fun we all get to have, because creativity is way more fun than doing the same thing over and over and wondering why is it not producing in the way it has for previously.
Mm-hmm.
So if you give people one tip for changing their perspective to being not about the product, not about the service, not about the bottom line, not about the numbers, but being more about the people, what's the first thing you tell people to do?
I think it depends on who the person is. What I see in leadership is a lot of indoctrination into what we discussed earlier around process and how we measure things. And when you're taking a human-centered approach, it can become a little bit, less easy to measure as we're moving through the process. And so for leaders, it can be a challenge with their mindset. So I've got all this experience, I've got all this expertise, I should know the answer. And to approach this work, you really need to be able to say, I don't know the answer, and I'm going to go and explore a little bit. And so letting go of those things can be a bit of a challenge. And I think with younger, I shouldn't say younger, but maybe some of the less experienced employees, often they just need permission and the support and encouragement, because at the end of the day, before we've had all this training of school and university and everything else, we're creative and human-centered by nature. And I think a lot of what we teach when we teach human-centered design is actually unlearning some of the things that we've been trained in. And I think going back to the listening listening and asking questions, open questions.
Because one of my superpowers is taking some of the things and simplifying them into conciseness.
Awesome.
I think what I've heard is that there are really three things that you have put out there, and that is to really listen. And I did put that as number one in my notes, like what could I do? Number two, I heard you say be open to new ways. Just because it wasn't done that way doesn't mean it cannot be done that way. And number three, which I think is really big, is don't be afraid to invite new people to the table to give their opinions.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid of customers. Don't be afraid of customers. And I think one of the things that people fear is if I ask my customer, then they expect, like they're going to say, I want this, and then they'll expect that I have to deliver, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to deliver that. But when you're having a long conversation and you're asking them about their experience, they're not going to say, I want chocolate coated popcorn and I'm not coming back unless you have it. They're really just expressing what's going on, and people love being listened to.
All right. A fun question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever received, I think, is don't make assumptions. I do it all the time. I think it's impossible as humans not to make assumptions. They're shortcuts a lot of the time, but assumptions are actually built into everything. One of my favorite examples is what's built into our language. The sun rises. Now, we know through science that actually the sun isn't moving, it's us moving. But when we say the sun is rising and we look out there, that's what we think and that's what we believe. And so there's assumptions built into our language and our culture that we need to question every now and then. And it's really powerful when you do.
Awesome. All right, Kylie, at Think Tank, we have a signature question that we close out every interview with. Mm-hmm. And the Trainer Think Tank signature question is that what do you do on a consistent basis to grow yourself and others?
Reflection. Yeah. Bob and I have a daily reflection practice, and, in a work context as well, I think when teams are under a lot of pressure, they'll tend not to do reflections, and the wheels start to fall off and everyone's feeling the pressure. And actually, if you pause and take the time to do a reflection, that can often just shift the whole course of what's happening and give people a chance to reset and move on. And yeah, super powerful, really important. Can't recommend it highly enough.
Awesome. All right, Kylie, if people wanted to learn more about you or about Bob or about the work that you guys are doing together, where would you send them?
If you can check out what Bob does at bobcooney.com. Happy to link in with me on LinkedIn, Kylie Savage. It's probably the best place to get in touch. I don't really post much about human-centered design anymore, but I do have an old blog on kyliesavage.com, which has a couple of articles that I've written about different things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I hope that everyone got something out of that and will look at what you're doing and what you're providing, not so much from your perspective as a business, but who are we providing it for and how are we showing up for them with, if it's a product or service or whatever it is we're providing. But thank you guys and happy Thursday.
Bye.
Guys, Kylie was great and so nice to come on to talk to me about human-centered design and how something that comes from big projects and big corporations can be more integrated into what we do in the entertainment sector. So thank you for that. Thank you again to my 2022 Think Tank partners, Party Center Software, Betson, Embed, Simnox, and Redemption Plus. We love their support each and every year so that we can continue to bring you information and just ideas to challenge how you're already doing business. If there's a topic that any of you would like for us to discuss on Think Tank, please don't hesitate to send me an email, candy@trainertainment.net. I'll do my best to find an expert to come on here and talk about that. And if any of you operators, vendors, service providers want to come on Think Tank and be a guest of mine, I would love to have you with me. Again, just email me and we can get you set up with your own episode. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Hello, my name is Brittany Betty, and I am the Regional Sales Director and Business Development Manager over at Betson Enterprises. Here at Betson, we are so excited to be a part of Trainertainment this year. For those of you who are unaware of Betson and what we do, we are the leading distributor of coin-operated equipment, and we are a family-owned business that has been around for 85 plus years. Please take a moment to watch a quick video on an introduction on the phased approach and turnkey solution we can offer you in your facility. Thank you so much for taking the time for watching. And if you have any questions and would like to reach out to me, I can be reached at my email at bbetty, BBETTI, at Betson, BETSON.com. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or needs you might have in the family entertainment industry, and I would be happy to assist you. Thank you and have a great day.
Are you looking for ways to maximize profits and consolidate systems and processes? Join the Party Center Software and Party Center Pay family. Our suite of solutions makes it easy for you to run your family entertainment center or event business. Our online party booking system makes booking parties and events a breeze. Our point of sale system, digital waivers, and reports will help you simplify steps for your staff and make your guest experience seamless. Our online store allows you to sell products, gift certificates, and other services anytime, even when you're sleeping. But it doesn't end there. All of the solutions mentioned connect with our payment processing platform, Party Center Pay, making it easier than ever to manage your business. Not only can Party Center Pay save you money by cutting out extraneous fees, but Party Center Pay makes it easy to take online deposits or full payments, and we even have a contactless payment option. Paired with our incredible support team and dedicated customer success managers, growing and managing your business has never been easier. Schedule a call with us today to learn more.
My wife and I, this is a partnership with her and I, so we both agreed that, in creating Scary Strokes, that we want to make sure that we have the best available of everything. Embed just seemed like the perfect fit. Like, it was pretty streamlined and had the point of sales and the software for the redemption, and it just seemed, natural to us. So we've been with Embed since the very beginning. And so when Embed, it was introducing the mobile wallet, it seemed like a good opportunity for us to jump on, and it's wonderful. I mean, you reload your card from it, you redeem your tickets from it. There's nothing not to like about it. I mean, it's very convenient. It's very clever for sure.
Empowering your employees to manage your redemption area with confidence can be a challenge. The redemption counter is often the last stop your customers make before leaving your facility. That's why we do everything we can to help your staff make that experience one worth returning for. Our service packages allow you to reap the benefits of expertise and customer support, no matter where your business is in its maturity. The Advanced and Pro service bundles are unmatched by any other redemption provider in the industry. They allow you to get the support you need when you need it. Gain confidence in your redemption program, knowing your employees are taking advantage of benefits like exclusive redemption training, regular planogram refreshes, product performance and spending reports, and much more. All accessible from an online portal customized to your business. Learn more at services.redemptionplus.com.